We are live. I'm just gonna turn the sound off of my phone just to be safe.
Just on one platform these days, or more than one? YouTube
Uh,
and Facebook, or
right now this will be just live on. You can only pick going live on one thing, I think.
okay,
So I'll do YouTube on this, and then it's easy for me to share. Once the recording's up on YouTube, then it's easier to share on the Facebook than it is to record on Facebook and then post it up to
okay.
YouTube because then you have to convert it and everything. But I don't know if I'll see live comment. All right, I have it up on my phone if anybody makes comments. So, and I want to welcome everybody to the Gen X Book Club, and may the fourth be with you. uh, yeah, I don't usually go with trends, but I'm a huge Star Wars fan, so I can't resist. The power of the dark side.
It's a
Yeah,
big Star Wars fan day.
yep.
May 4th.
If there's anybody new here, I'm Paul Stressner, and along with me, Suzanne Manaboni. Hey, Suzanne.
Yeah, great to be here as usual.
Yeah. I'm excited to talk about today's book, a book slash movie. Yeah, it seems like I think just about every one we've covered had some kind of movie or TV show associated with it, even if it's
Yeah,
memoirs and
mostly,
stuff. So yeah. And it,
which is, I mean, then it's more of an experience to talk about, you know?
it's fun to compare and everything. And I
Mm.
don't know, I feel like on every episode I should probably say, but especially on this one, I should say ahead of time that there will be spoilers because there are some, major reveals in this book if you haven't
That's
seen it
true.
yet. So although I kind of had an inkling that's the big thing that happened at the end was what happened, but but
Did
we'll
you? You
get
kind of saw it coming a little bit?
yeah. The part that gave it away was when the when the aunt was gonna go get his birthday present, and the way she like whispered to him that um I forget what she said, keep it a secret or something like that. And yeah, it that just kind of like I felt like that was like dropping you know,
Did you see the movie
foreshadowing.
before you read the book originally?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I didn't see the movie before. I watched the movie. This is the first time I've watched the movie and read the book.
Okay.
So I watched the movie first just so I could picture the characters when I was reading the book. But yeah, it's tough to say which the best way to do it because when you read the book, you get a lot of the backstory filled in that kind of alludes to the movie alluded to maybe some stuff, but you get more details in the book, so you get more of a backstory in the book and everything. But in this one, I feel like the book, the movie followed the book pretty well.
Yeah, I think it was a very good adaptation, I have to
Yeah.
say. As a writer, I always try to read it first.
Hmm.
Sometimes I don't get around to reading it before, it comes on the streaming service and I end up, seeing the movie. But
Hmm.
back when it wasn't so easy to see stuff, like when this book came out, in the 90s when nobody was
Hmm.
streaming, Netflix and what have you. Um, and I read the book when it first came out. I it's hard for me to remember. I'm pretty sure I read the book first, but I think I did them wham bam, one then the other. When like I didn't get the book until the movie came out, but I
Oh,
had
okay.
heard real good buzz about it.
Hmm.
So, it's kind of hard. I think at that point I'd already seen trailers for the movie, so maybe I pictured those characters the way they looked and
Hmm.
sounded when I read it because of that. But yeah, luckily, I think they were fairly well depicted. Maybe in reading it now, I noticed more differences, I think, than I did when I originally read it. And reading it back in the 90s, I don't know. It's a really different experience for me reading it now. I mean,
Hmm.
some books I can read it and I'm still relating to the same character.
Yeah.
But I think now, I don't know, when I was young, maybe I was like I was already married. I think maybe even had my, at least one little child at the
Hmm.
time, but I think I was still feeling like relating to the young adults.
Yeah.
Now I'm reading it and I'm reading it like a parent, and it was a whole different vibe for me to see the things that he was going on at that were going on at those parties and stuff, saying
Mhm.
this is just not right. This is not good. That they, you know, he's 16.
Yeah.
This is just not good. But I remember reading it at the time when I was, 30-ish,
Mhm.
and not blinking an eye at the stuff that was going on there,
Yep.
which we can kind of get into that. But, that's the first
Yeah.
thing that I noted, how different it felt to me reading it now.
Mhm. Yeah, that it is amazing how you read books at different points in your life, and it's like reading it's a whole different experience. Yes,
Sometimes, yeah,
oh,
almost
same
shocks
thing
me.
with movies too, because you think about like Ferris Bueller and like you root for Ferris and everything when you're younger, and now like a lot of people say they relate to the principal, but I relate more to his sister in this one in Ferris
That's
Bueller.
funny. That's funny. Yeah, maybe movies even more so because everything you're getting a visual that's always really dated, so it
Mhm.
tends to maybe pull you out of the narrative a little bit
Mhm.
because with noticing how different everything looks.
Yeah,
So that's a little harder, but I still kind of can. Most of the movies that I saw, and once I see it again, I can kind of remember that initial
like
reaction
feel.
and
Mhm.
still kind of color what I'm watching in the present with that.
Mhm.
If I watch a movie now from the 80s that I didn't see when I was young, I just, it's just not the same.
Yeah, yeah.
I cannot, yeah, then everything feels very dated and kind of cloying sometimes, because
Mhm.
they got very formulaic, the 80s movies, and they were great. It was a great formula.
Right, yeah.
But if they didn't catch you when you're at that moment, it's not the same reaction.
hmm
But
hmm Yeah. Oh, I should say that this book, Parks of Being a Wallflower, it was published on February 1st, 1999. It was by MTV Books. I didn't even know there was an MTV Books. I didn't know they had their
remember
own.
that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Geez, where did that go?
With the that was when yeah, were there might have been a little bit of music videos back then. Was it the TRL was a Total Request Live. I think that might have still been going on and stuff back then.
Right. It was, I think it
The
was when they
whole Britney
started to
Spears and all
decline.
that. Yeah, yeah. Carson Daly and all that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We were already checked out by then, us
kind
80s
of.
people. So yeah, yeah. And then the film, it made its world premiere at a festival on September 8th, 2012. And then the expanded release was on October 12th, 2012. So it's a little more than a decade. And it was actually directed by the author of the book, Stephen Chbosky. Chbosky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considering that he wasn't a director per se, I
Mhm.
think he did a really excellent job in. I don't. That can't be easy to just jump from one genre to the next. From one discipline to the next, and actually be successful your first time.
Yeah, yeah. It
But it was a
actually,
good movie.
yeah, maybe that's kind of what helped because I think they're good companion pieces. Like I think it's good to read the book and watch this movie together, but yeah, you get more of a complete experience with the book, of course, because for time constraints and everything, some storylines kind of get scrapped. I think the
Yeah,
biggest difference was with the sister in so many things, like a lot of her backstory with her relationships and
it's
even
true.
the
Absolutely.
relationship with Charlie, the main character, like they seem to be more antagonistic in the book, but I didn't see any of that in the movie at all. It was just total
That's
opposite.
that's true. I thought that was sad the way that I mean, in the end, I think they kind of
Yeah.
bonded a little more
hmm
over the things that were going on with him and obviously her relationship with her boyfriend. Once again, spoilers. She had a boyfriend that was kind of abusive, and this all plays into some of the emotional issues that the very young characters were having. But did you notice? And I didn't notice this the first time that I read it in the book when Charlie is narrating through a series of letters.
Yeah.
So the narration is really outstanding. The way you're in his head the whole time, as if he actually is writing letters. Like a lot of times people will write books and it's like supposed to be a diary or what have you, and it's a
Mhm.
little corny. But the voice that was in the letters was really just like so honest and so believable. I think that, and I read a couple of reviews to see what people had to say about the book at the time, and a lot of people really heralded, how terrific that was done. And it's there's a lot of painful stuff in there, so you really, your heart goes out the whole time.
Mhm.
Um, but did you notice that the sister and the brother didn't even have a name in the book? He
Mhm.
just always said my sister and my
Yeah.
brother
Hmm.
through the whole thing. Like, and it was so, like when you're talking about your own sister and brother, you usually don't say their name, you say my brother, you know,
Hmm.
or at least
Yeah.
I do. If I'm talking about my brother, I'll say my brother. So it's just lent a lot of authenticity to it, and almost like you could plug in your own experiences, if he's not even naming them. So
Uh,
that was interesting.
oh, that's so interesting. Yeah. 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 Because I didn't even think like because the letters are going. It seems like they're going to somebody specific, but you don't know who he's sending them to.
Right. Did you feel? I don't
It
know that I even really figured out at the end if we knew.
No, no, I don't
Yeah,
even know.
no,
Yeah,
you
I don't know if we're
either?
even
I'm not
supposed to
sure.
know. Yeah, I don't even know
I
if we're
guess
supposed
I
to know.
guess not. At first I thought he might be sending them to, in the beginning of the book we find out that he had a friend who committed suicide,
Hmm.
which,
Yep.
from page one, that this is going to be a serious, book about his emotional state. I thought at first maybe he was writing to his friend Michael, who
Hmm.
he lost, but then he starts referring to Michael in the letters, so that didn't make any
Yeah.
sense. And it just seems to me like he made up a person that he was speaking to, or speaking to his future self or something like that. But it's
Oh,
interesting
that's
that
interesting.
we never really get an answer on that one.
Hmm. Yeah, because I feel like because that's another thing I was thinking about too. Because he didn't mention his brother and sister's names. It seemed like he was trying to protect some people too, and keeping them
Yeah,
anonymous.
that's a good point.
So I don't
That's a
know.
good
But
point.
if the person knows him, they would know maybe they would know the brother or sister. I don't know. But yeah, that
Yeah,
is
and it's
cool.
hard not to think that this isn't autobiographical because it's so personal.
Mm,
I don't really know if that's true, but that would be my guess.
mm.
You know,
Uh,
if
uh,
if not, then he really is masterful in writing this book. If he did
right.
not suffer from these same things that we're seeing Charlie suffer through.
Yes, it was so unique the way it was written. I absolutely loved it. The like Suzanne said, it was written as letters and it was dated, so this took place within a school year.
Mm,
And yeah, so you go through all the different seasons and everything, and he's due to the high school, so you get right, yeah, because his best friend had committed suicide, and now he's going into high
yeah.
school, and yeah, it, uh, I'm, I feel like the way as I was reading it, I don't know if I don't know if I'm a little off on this, but it felt like he was somebody that was autistic.
Yeah,
The way,
I would say that too.
mm,
I
but
would
then at
say
the
that
same,
too. Definitely
but
on the spectrum.
yeah, yeah. The way, but it didn't seem as much in the movie, but the way it was written in the book, it really sounded like a lot of disconnection and trying to figure out feelings and stuff that his friends are feeling. And there was just a lot of, similarities with somebody that would have autism. But then again, he had just been through trauma, losing his friend, and then the other
Right. I don't
major
think that's
thing.
all that was going on, was that he was autistic. And I
Yeah.
have to wonder, trying to think back to the 90s, I don't know that autism was quite as well defined as it is now, or as defined across a range of symptoms.
Mhm.
So, like I said, when I read it at the time, that didn't even occur to me, but it seemed very obvious this time reading it. But
Yeah.
that's not the only thing, obviously, that he was suffering from.
Suffer
Like you said, he
exactly.
had trauma for various reasons,
Mhm.
and um, he had what seemed to be, at least at some point, very severe bouts of depression, which he would refer to as, sometimes I get this way. And then
Mhm.
he would talk about like kind of dark times. And then in the immediacy of the narrative, he falls back into that. So it's kind of scary to watch that happen because like at this point, I feel like I'm a parent watching over this person and want to help them and pull them back.
Hmm.
Uh, and I know that that's not the easiest thing to do when when you have some kind of clinical, you know, uh, uh, mental health issue. Uh, but yeah, he definitely had some serious problems, and it's you just wanted to hug him, through most of this and say it's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Let's get you help. Let's get you help.
Yeah, yeah. And yeah, and then he eventually he became friends with the other two main characters. The I can't read my writing. The person who played Charlie was Logan. I can't read my writing now. I never
Never
heard.
mind.
I don't know what else he's been in.
He was
But
in some other young
Lerman,
adult, films since then, which I know because, like I said, around the time that film came out, I had little kids, so I was watching the other films that he was in with my
mhm,
children. But
yeah. Because when I saw the movie poster, I didn't know which one was Charlie. I didn't know if it was him or Ezra Miller, who played
mhm.
Patrick. And this could be like another whole topic of itself because I don't know if you're aware that Ezra Miller is pretty problematic.
Oh yeah, he got into a
Yeah,
lot of trouble. I
yeah,
didn't look up. I remember hearing about it. I didn't look up what it was he did, but I do
yeah,
remember him having a
yeah,
bunch of issues where he was kicked off of a few films for, I don't know, some kind of abuse of the other
yeah, yeah.
actors. Yeah,
Not the actors, but yeah, he seems to like to hit the ladies. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And he was
that's bad.
charged with that because the first time it happened, I think he was arrested, but then he might have gotten off because I forgot that they made it seem like that was like a one-time thing. What it wasn't like
Yeah, and then it
as
happened
bad as
again.
that. Yeah, yeah. And then it kept happening, and yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's sad. So you know
yeah,
what? He's terrific in this film.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know that I've seen
A
him
lot
in
of
too much
people.
else, but he was wonderful in this.
The thing I know him from, most people probably know him from, was is the Flash in the DC
Oh,
universe in
yeah,
the
okay. I haven't
movies.
watched
Yeah, and he's great in that too. Because one of the things that separates DC and Marvel is Marvel seems to have a lot of humor and everything, and DC is really dark.
that.
But
Okay.
his character, the Flash, and then the one that plays Aquaman, that they bring a lot of humor to it, and that so that they're really good, and it just sucks that.
Yeah, it's sad when you find out, these terrifically talented people, have their own dark side, and are out there abusing people. It's sad. It is.
Yeah,
It's a waste.
yep, yep. And then Sam, of course, was played by Emma Watson, of course,
Yeah,
Hermione.
she's terrific too. You completely forget that she's English.
Right, yeah,
You
yeah.
completely forget.
That's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of pretty big names in there. Joe Cusack was in the end of it, and
Yeah.
uh, was it Kate Walsh, was the mother, and was it Dermot Mulroney was the father, and then Paul Rudd was outstanding as the teacher, Mr.
Yeah,
Anderson, English
it was a
teacher.
great cast. It
Hmm.
was a great cast.
Yeah. Um, I loved Paul Rudd's character in this, and then um, yeah, I was hoping he wasn't going to be abusive. No, 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 no. But
Yeah, right.
he
Please
was
don't make
great.
sense.
Yeah, I hope he's not being nice for me. But yeah, he was really good. It was kind of like almost like a Robin Williams and like Goodwill Hunting or uh Dead Poet Society. Like he's like a really good mentor and really cares.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the book gave him a little bit more backstory and
Hmm.
screen time also
Yeah.
when he was having issues with his girlfriend, and then I think they either got engaged or they got married, or they and had Charlie come over, and they made him dinner, and
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
there was that moment. It was very nice. It was a nice moment. It was not in the film, where he basically said to him, Charlie, do you understand how talented you are? That you are really special. And it seemed like it didn't occur to him other than, okay, I get good grades and, I make my parents happy.
Mhm.
He didn't really realize how talented a writer he was. And
Mhm.
that was only just something that recently had popped into his head that that's what he should do. Or, or the aunt had told him that that was what he should do. Trying to remember.
Oh, now I can't remember in the book because
Yeah, he almost made it sound like somebody told him that's what he should do. So, oh, I guess that's what I'm going to do, as opposed to him just being showing that he was really brilliantly talented at this. So
yeah,
it was it was a revelation for him, and it was a nice moment between him and the teacher and the teacher's girlfriend. So
yeah, yeah. If anything, it made it seem like he didn't think he was like that smart in school, but
yeah, he didn't really realize how, maybe he just thought everybody was just this insightful, talented person who can express themselves the same way that he did on paper anyway.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, that was so cool the way they did it. Yeah, it's just genius the way they did it in the movie, the way they showed how smart he is without having to, with all the dialogue and everything. That uh, Mr. Anderson was asking in the class a question. I think there was a Charles Dick, not was it Charles Dickens quote, and he was asking who did this quote, and everybody's making all these guesses. Meanwhile, Charlie knew it, and he had it written down. And the teacher's walking up and down the aisles
yeah,
asking, and then he glanced down, and he saw the answer written on the paper, but he didn't like call him out or anything. And then,
right. That is very clever that we knew as an audience that he knew the answer
hmm
and the teacher figured it out, but he
yeah,
never went through the paces of saying, I know
yeah,
it.
hmm
So
yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah. So yeah, it's just so well done. I can't. Um,
absolutely.
mm. And that he ended up becoming friends with Patrick and Sam, who are kind of, yeah, it's like step siblings, right? Like
Yeah.
her mother married Patrick's father. I think that's what it was. Or
Yeah.
was it the other
Yeah.
way around?
And they
Yeah.
turned out, well, yeah, I don't remember which was which, but yeah, they were siblings by marriage, but yet they were kind of best friends.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kind of like that, seeing that situation.
Yeah.
Um, and it was a nice way to introduce them both without having there be a possibility that they would be a couple, since, spoiler alert, uh, Charlie is just absolutely in love with Sam through the whole
Hmm.
film and feels like maybe she's too good for him, I mean, they're all older than him, first of all,
Yeah, they're seniors.
significantly older, right? Which is difficult as it is. And
Hmm
it's difficult for him, once you get to the end of the book and they're all going off to the next phases of their lives.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, it was set up well where they could all be friends, but not, have limit the romantic, you know,
hmm
association between, any of them.
Yeah. Yeah. They were just basically opening up a whole new world to him. So, we see it through his eyes, the parties and everything. And yeah, that was fun. Oh, and then we also meet a couple of the other friends, Mary Elizabeth and Alice. And in the movie, Mary Elizabeth was played by Mae Whitman. And we used to watch that show, Parenthood,
No, but
the
I am
TV
familiar
show.
with that actress. I've liked a lot of the stuff she's done.
Yeah.
She was in Arrested Development,
Oh, really? Oh,
and she
I
was
never
very
saw that.
funny.
Oh,
She was
yeah.
very funny. Yeah, she was kind of a side character, on one of the seasons.
hmm
But yeah, she's very talented. And
Yeah.
once again, I don't think I knew who she was when I first watched that film. I don't
hmm
think she had much of a career yet at the time. But I look back now, and she's done a lot to kind of prove herself.
Yeah. I'm not sure when the Parenthood was on. That might have been like in the middle of it. Because, yes,
Hmm.
because she wasn't like a little kid in it. She was a teenager in the in the show, so it might have been a little bit of an overlap there. But yeah, she played Lauren Graham's daughter in that show, so yeah, that's where I knew her from. She was yeah, everybody in this was really good. So yeah,
It's true, and went on to do more, have successful careers.
hmm uh, yeah. So that Charlie gets high for the first time when somebody gives him brownies that he wants to, oh, thank you. He didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was laced.
Next thing you know, right.
And then they made him feel welcome and everything. Well, I think first of all, yeah, yeah. Like I already said, there's gonna be spoilers in this, and we
Mm,
find out that Patrick's gay, and uh, Charlie walked in on him making out with the football player in one of the rooms, and
hmm
then the Patrick didn't care, but of course the football player didn't want anybody to know his secret. So then Patrick, told him to keep it a secret and everything. And then like later on in the party, they made a toast to Charlie, calling him friend and everything. He can like you can
Yeah,
tell
and
that anything. Yeah.
they really were. I mean, they took care of him.
Yeah, they took care of
You
him.
know,
Yep. Hmm.
they were good friends.
They watched out for him. Hmm.
Yeah, if I have to point to friends in a book or in a movie that I really thought, I have to hand it to, they've behaved well.
Yeah.
They really looked out for Charlie, even though, all right, he's at these parties, he's doing drugs. There is one moment where he actually does a tab of acid,
Yeah.
and he's like 15 or 16 years old. Once
Right.
again, when I was young and I read this, like to me, that didn't, it didn't really register as being any big deal.
Hmm.
But now I'm like, he's 15 years old. Come on, 15 years old. Why are we letting him do this at this point? This is horrifying. But I mean, it's hard to say. I can't explain why I didn't think that was unacceptable at the time. But um that I mean, it kind of pushed him over the edge in his emotional state at some point.
Yeah.
But I felt like they really did go look for him when they thought he was having some kind of problem, and they knew that he had issues, even though, like I said, maybe this kind of thing wasn't as well defined or as well treated at the time. But they knew when he needed them,
Yeah.
and up until like there was one point where they had a kind of had a scuffle
Yeah.
because he was kind of clueless in how to deal with Mary Elizabeth and kind of
Right. Yeah.
misstepped because he was actually in love with Sam. So maybe until that little scuffle where they really had to say, all right, we have to cool this for a while. Um, they really tried to make sure he was okay with all these new things that they were introducing him to. So at
Mhm.
least you have to give them credit for that.
Yeah. I think the thing that triggered that was I don't know if they did it in the book, but I know in the movie when he when Sam found out that he was high, that he said he wanted a milkshake, so she was making
Yeah.
him a milkshake in the kitchen. He's not gonna have the stuff for it. And then he mentioned how his friend Michael had killed himself. And then I don't if you just watch the movie, Emma Watson just did like the look on her face, and you can really tell that it really hit. She's like, what? And so then I think that from that she knew that you know he had problems, probably from that. And then she kind of whispered it to
Needed
Patrick later on.
a
So
certain
then that
amount of
yeah, so that kind of
attention.
upped
And yeah.
yeah, so that kind of upped them to look out for him and everything. So yeah, and then another one of my favorite things about this, I don't know if you ever experienced this. We went to the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh
Did you ever do
yeah.
that when you were younger? Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, and was it 10th grade or 11th grade? It was kind of like a rite of passage at
Mm.
at my high
Right.
school.
All
I
right. So,
got involved in, yeah, there was like this big kind of crazy variety show that went on at my high school. It was
uh-huh.
called the Mad Show. And it was like the cool thing to be in. And I could sing, so I got into the show.
Oh.
So I got to do the cool thing. But then in the middle of the night after rehearsals, we all poured into a bunch of cars and went to see the Rocky Horror Picture Show. And
Mhm.
in New York, it was strange. Like you couldn't even hear what was going on the screen. Everybody just
Right.
screamed the whole
Screaming.
movie.
Yep. Yep.
Just
Yep.
screaming. Really? You guys too? Because and it
Yeah.
seems like that in other places there was more decorum where they listened to the dialogue and then they
Oh
screamed.
no.
And then they stopped and then they screamed. No, we just screamed all the way through.
Yeah, yeah, because everybody has
Which
something
is
different to say. Yeah, I don't know if yeah, in case you're not familiar with the Rocky Horror Picture Show, because yeah, Suzanne and I aren't virgins, but they make a big deal. If you've never been before, you get called a virgin, and then
a virgin.
it's the movies, that, Tim Curry who's in it, and yeah, now my mind's going blank now.
Terrific movie.
Yeah,
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 Susan
yeah.
Sarandon.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, yeah, it's just like a horrible musical. Yeah. Yeah, really transvestite heavy, so it would be it's probably going to be canceled all over the country now. So
Oh my God. Yeah, no, you could never see that was the nice thing about the 70s and the 80s. You could get away with shit and be really creative and
yeah.
crazy. It was just, it was kind of a takeoff on like weird B science fiction movies from the 50s,
Mhm.
really.
Yeah, yeah,
And, with transvestites from space, let's just say that. And
yeah,
people
yeah,
would act, they had actors who would act out what was going on the screen in the front of the theater. And of course, you'd like throw things and you'd bring props, and it was a crazy
yeah.
experience, which I
Well,
think they still play it, but I don't know if they quite get
probably
into it the
not
way
as
that we used
often.
to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, at the theater that we used to, I, was it on Saturday? I can't remember if it was on either a Friday or Saturday night at midnight was when they showed it at the theater near
Yeah.
me. So you go
In
with
the
a
middle of
group
the
of
night.
people.
Right.
And a lot of people would actually dress like the characters in there,
Yeah.
and then you throw stuff, and at the theater that I went to, if you they actually sold stuff that you could throw and everything. If you don't have your own, you could get the
That's nice.
rice. Then there's a wedding at the beginning, and then everybody throws
Yeah.
rice. It's like a total experience. At the same time, there's actors up in front of the screen acting out the parts as well. At least the one that I went to, and they did this in the movie too, in this movie. But yeah, you're just shouting out dialogue. They have crazy dialogue in the movie, and I don't know how to explain it. You're like shouting at them. You're saying, you're
It
saying
was
yell at the
fun.
screen. Yeah, yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And it's not just that they went to the movie in the experience of the book. They were very involved, like they were part
Involved.
of the cast
Hmm.
who would act out the film, which is kind of, it's very culty
Yeah,
thing,
yeah. Hmm.
So for them to be that involved and do it on a regular basis, and the fact that Patrick would do Frankenfurter, who's the lead character, who
Hmm.
basically walks around in high heels and a corset, and like, and Patrick is gay, so he's
Yeah,
doing the drag performance, so it kind of
yeah.
all ties in as something that's very important to them.
Hmm.
And they bring Charlie into that experience too. And at one point, they have him cover for one of the guys who didn't show up,
To show
and he
up.
gets to
Yeah.
do, Rocky the
Rocky.
monster, if you know, yeah.
Yep.
So, which is, something you wouldn't expect a very young autistic boy to do,
Yeah.
but he did. So, it just kind of showed that they were bringing him out of his
Out of the
shell and
shell.
out of
Hmm.
his comfort level, his
Yeah.
comfort zone.
Yeah, I think Mary Elizabeth actually had a newsletter for them and everything.
Oh yeah.
Punk Rocky. You're Muslim. She's Muslim, right? I think they said that she's Muslim in this,
Oh
or
no, yeah, or
a,
a Buddhist.
A
She became a Buddhist. She was
Buddhist.
very zen about
But
everything.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And she's like the total opposite personality of somebody you would think is Buddhist, but
Yeah, I guess she was an interesting character though. That
yeah, I love
they
that
fleshed
character.
her out a lot more in the book, I think, than they did
Yeah.
in the film. And you got to kind of see how Charlie was trying to interact with her, was not really happy with her,
Mm.
but then in the end, Sam kind of calls him out for not just coming out and saying, Mary Elizabeth, I don't think we're right for each other.
Mhm.
I mean, that blew up. I mean, just to, let people who were listening, it kind of blew up at one point. They're playing Spin the Bottle. No, playing Truth or
Truth
Dare.
or Dare.
And he
Yep,
was
yep.
dared to kiss the prettiest girl in the room.
And
And
they were
instead of
dating at
kissing
the
his
time. Yeah,
girlfriend, yeah, right, who was Mary Elizabeth,
yeah,
he kissed Sam.
yeah.
And that was like a big scuffle. And because there was all such a history between these two girls. Um, but the thing is, they were kind of right about him. And when Sam kind of said, well, why aren't you, you need to be present in and express yourself, and don't just be whatever you think the person you're
Mhm.
talking to wants you to be,
Yeah.
which is what he was doing. But like, you don't really even think about that too much until he's called out for it at the end.
Mhm.
And maybe that is kind of the autistic thing, where he's just kind of going along and going along and going along, and literally like puts the phone down as she's talking, walks away, does something else,
Yeah, yeah.
comes back, and
Is she
she's
still
still
talking?
talking.
Yeah.
Doesn't realize, but he can't tell her, I'm not interested in this.
Mm.
So it was an interesting dynamic, and she was an important character in that way, Mary Elizabeth.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, I loved it. And yeah, it was really good. Yeah, really good lesson. I mean, people could still take away today. Like, yeah, a lot of people live to make other people happy, but you're not doing them any favors if you're not being honest with
right, and then
them.
they're resentful of it, but yet they're the ones that didn't express what they really needed. So
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I just love that. Yeah, a lot of lessons in this as well. So
yeah, absolutely. And
yeah.
I did relate in another way, and that I had maybe mentioned when we were, Facebooking about this, that it takes place in Pittsburgh,
Hmm.
and I went to college in Pittsburgh, so I have a lot of friends in Pittsburgh, and I've spent a decent amount of time there. Actually, going in a couple of weeks for a writers' conference, and in fact, some of it, like that movie theater that they went to, the Hollywood Theater,
Yeah.
was like my roommate's local neighborhood theater. It actually exists. And she's now married to my brother, actually, so we're still friends. So we talked about this. And there is one moment when they're in the hospital that you can see the buildings from my campus in through
Oh,
the window, because
oh,
there's like this 37 floor building, called the Cathedral, that's on campus at Pitt, and it is in the background in through the windows as he's in the hospital, which, spoiler alert, this kind of his emotional state really bottoms out, and then we realize the root problem that he'd been having, which, if we alluded to in the beginning of the discussion here, where he finds out that his favorite aunt, who was killed in an accident, actually sexually abused him. Which, I think the first time I read the book, I didn't even get that. It was kind of subtle the way they described it, and it was a little bit more spelled out in the film.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because she
I
was
think,
telling him to not wake his sister up at one point
right,
when he
yeah,
was
and
having a
it's creepy.
flashback. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And he doesn't remember that specifically until the end of the film, where
Mhm.
he has an episode.
Yeah.
So it's very sad. And then he realizes that he has to inform his parents that this is what happened, that his their favorite, you know, sister slash aunt was, committing these things, conducting herself this way.
Mhm.
And, I think he almost felt that much more guilty that he had to be the one to let them know that this happened.
Mhm.
So you just,
It,
like I said, the whole time you just want to hug him and try and make him better.
because he already felt responsible for her death because she was
Yeah.
out getting him a birthday present because
Well, that's
it,
what
it
she
was
said.
yeah, yeah. Um, because I think it was his birthday the day before Christmas or the day after Christmas.
Right.
It's like around Christmas time. So then and this is when he was a child. So then, growing up, he would have these episodes around that time, and the family was always showing concern for him because he took on the responsibility, feeling like he's responsible for his aunt dying. So he had that going on
Yeah. Yeah.
that as well.
A lot of things that played into how fragile he was mentally,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a lot to
Now,
between all the stuff with the aunt and then his friend and everything. Yeah, he was a mess. Yeah.
he was, but he kind of, I mean, he obviously he needed help, and he got help. But considering how much he had been through, I think he was really doing the best that he could,
Yeah.
and he in the end, I think, was very resilient. And did you do the audio book, or did you do an
Oh,
electronic version, or what did you read?
Um, oh, it might have been both. I was reading the actual. I have a digital copy, but Yeah, I listened to the book as well while I was reading along with the audio.
Okay. I
Yeah,
was reading it on Kindle, and I
yeah.
think it's some kind of anniversary version. And they have in it an extra letter from Charlie, like a new letter that the author wrote, kind of as a
Uh,
companion to this. And it was really, I'm going to try not to choke up because it was very, I mean, it's a very emotional story as it was, but
mhm.
he did another letter. All the letters started with dear friend. As
Yeah.
we said, we never find out who the friend is, but he started saying, okay, when I was a young person, I wrote letters and, they helped
Mhm.
me. And then he says, and so many of you wrote back.
Back. Mhm.
And he explained, and it's almost the author talking as Charlie, I guess. He explained how so many people related to this book and wrote him to say how much it helped them.
Mhm.
And once again, if you go back to the 80s and the 90s, a lot of people were suffering with things that there was no real name for. I had my best friend in college was severely bipolar and still is. Now she's on medication, but she was not diagnosed until she was in her late 40s.
Mhm.
But we knew, just like Charlie and Sam and Patrick, they all knew that something, very serious was going on with him, was wrong with him.
Mhm.
And they really tried everything they could to help him and watch out for him. And we kind of did that too with my friend who I'm still,
Uh,
very close to. But I remember kind of the frustration of feeling like we had the responsibility to try and help her through that, even though we weren't psychologists or,
right. Yeah.
like we didn't know what we were doing. But it
Mhm.
seems like nobody else did either
Right.
to help them. So all those other people who were suffering from similar things read this book and saw themselves and had some kind of got some kind of therapeutic value out of it and wrote him saying thank you. And I thought that was really touching that he could, took that opportunity to acknowledge that.
Mhm.
And then in the end said, and everyone also asked, what happened to Charlie? And he says, here's what's happened to Charlie. He got through it.
Yeah.
He, and so can you.
Mhm.
And to me, it was just like it was really a very emotional
Mhm.
read to because you want so badly for him to get through it and
Yeah.
be okay. And so to hear an acknowledgement that he was, and that maybe all these other people who read the book were able to get through things because they had this example and could relate to it.
Mhm.
It was beautiful. Big like just my hat off to this author in so many ways.
Yeah. 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 I read. Yeah, that was in the version that I saw too. That
Yeah.
was incredible,
It was
and that just
beautiful.
yeah, and it just shows how important it is to, if you're going through something, that there's somebody that can relate to you. So it's good to get your story out. And he was writing this as he was going through it. So that must have been like some kind of therapy as well.
It's
Because
true.
I know writing helps me a lot when, you know, I'm going through
Yeah,
something.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, it's like its own therapy and everything. So that, yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. That's incredible. Yeah, yeah, so important. Um, Another cool thing about this was a lot of it was a lot of music was involved with this as well. It's a
Oh
lot of mixtape
yeah, I
talk.
meant to talk about that too.
Yeah, yeah. It's all your jam, all your
Oh my God,
all your ultimate.
absolutely.
And in the movie, they used a different song. I think in the book, it it was like Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, and in
Yeah, there
in
was
the
a
movie,
reference
it
to
was
that.
Heroes by David Bowie was kind of like
That's
the
right, that they went
centerpiece.
when they went through the tunnel.
Tunnel, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, and
So
they made like they didn't know what that song was. Yeah,
right,
that
yeah.
and the thing is like when I was in college, that was like I knew that song. We had me and my now husband had a friend who was a huge Bowie fanatic who was his roommate.
Mhm.
And we knew that song from him. And there's, some kind of, he was very funny. He did kind of bits with them. We had like inside jokes and stuff regarding heroes. And
Mhm.
but nobody really knew, hardly anybody knew that song. It was kind of like a B-side until this movie came out. And there was that scene where she was in the tunnel and she's, doing she's
Yeah.
standing up in the back of a pickup. Once again, as a mother, I'm looking at that like, oh my God, please stop her.
Yeah,
But
no,
as a
at
30 year
first I
old, I
thought
didn't seem to mind.
I know at first I thought it was just like through a moonroof or something, but no, it was the back of the bed of a
No,
pickup
it's
truck
the
as they're
back of
going
a
through.
freaking pickup truck in a tunnel. Oh my God. But it was
That
in the film, it was this really wonderful moment of
mhm.
them feeling free.
Free.
And
Hmm.
he described it as, what's the word he used? Infinite. We
Yeah,
were
infant. That's
infinite.
it. That's it. Yep. Good. Good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like I looked up some things about this film and that scene and the playlist,
Mhm.
and people were referencing that this is the infinite, that I feel infinite. I listen to
Mhm.
this and I feel infinite. And that, I think, it just tied up a lot of what was, what they were feeling as like that coming of age moment. You're
Mhm.
scared and you know what the hell's going on and you're lost, but you have your friends and you have your future in front of you. And there are moments that you just feel, that's the way they described it. I feel infinite.
Mhm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
know that tunnel, I'm familiar with that tunnel and that view that comes at you of the city when you come out, that he said he was so impressed with. It's cool.
Hmm.
It's cool.
Did that lead to? Was that the bridge that it went to? I
Yeah,
remember
you
seeing a
come out.
bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You're going over the
In
bridge.
the
You see
signs
the
for
city.
Duquesne University and shit. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's so cool
Mm.
seeing somebody, you know, hear an incredible song for the first time, being introduced to like a legendary song. So,
Yeah. And his playlist was pretty amazing. I
yeah.
was I was kind of excited. There's a song on there by Suzanne Vega called Gypsy,
Uh,
which is, I don't know if you listen to the playlist, but
no.
it's like the most beautiful, poetic, amazing song ever. I'm a huge Suzanne Vega sorry, fan. And to see that song on the list, I just wanted to cry. It's
Yeah.
just gorgeous. He
Uh,
has really good musical taste.
yeah. Yeah. The Smiths are his favorite band.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that was yeah, a lot of fun. Yeah, it's real throwback to because he'd make mixtapes for people and stuff. And yeah,
Right, right. It was a big deal. Thing
yeah.
that you did for people, personal thing you did for people.
Hmm. Yeah, that's just say yeah, something. It just showed how thoughtful he was, and that was part of him being a wallflower, being observant of everybody around him. So yeah, so that that was part of it too. He's observing everybody, so he wants to everybody to be happy and stuff. So so that's why he's observing them, and he's just putting himself last, so to speak. But but he's does all these thoughtful things for everybody else. Hmm. I don't know if there were any other major points I'm trying to think of that I'm missing.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. I think we
Yeah,
covered a lot. Mm. But please,
yeah,
everybody,
yeah.
read it if you haven't yet.
Uh,
It's beautiful.
everything that I love the yeah, it just touched my soul. I can't believe I hadn't read this until now, but this is right up my alley. It's incredible. And then you have your throwbacks of stuff that's a little outdated. Like in the movie, he had a trapper keeper, and then like there was a mean girl that was next to him. She called him a fag. So, oh my God, I haven't heard that
Yeah,
in a while. Oh my God. But that, you see all the problematic stuff that we used to say back then.
absolutely.
Yeah. Uh, um, yeah, so yeah, it really was a throwback. There's just everything about this, the nostalgia for us, and then and just the themes, and it's just timeless too at the same time. So yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
I don't know. I don't
Oh
think there's
boy.
anything else. Yeah, I don't think there's anything else to cover with
I think
this.
anything else we should maybe leave a few surprises for people to read on
Yeah,
their own if
yeah,
anybody
yeah,
is listening.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, it sounds like we both highly recommend this.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely
absolutely.
read. Yeah, yeah, definitely read the book. See the movie, and yeah, I think it helps. I think it would help if you read the book first, because then you get a lot of the backstory and everything.
Yeah. Well, it's just such a well done book that
So well written, everything
yeah,
about it.
just don't miss it. Don't be satisfied just with watching the movie. Let's put it that way,
Right, yeah, exactly. Yeah, you need
because
to
then
read the
you're really
book.
missing something, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I think it helped that he wrote the book and directed this because yeah, they kind of made sure that it was done right. And yeah. So
Completely.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, so definitely I can't praise this enough. So and then we can talk about next week's. I hadn't thought about this, but yeah, this is a good idea. For a month of May, we're gonna read Fight Club. So
We're going to talk about it.
yeah, yeah, we're gonna talk about despite what they
Yes,
say. So
yes. Now we're talking about Fight Club. Well, we're going to break the rules and talk about Fight Club. Just another brilliant book. So,
yeah, I'm looking forward. I
okay.
had I've seen the movie, but I haven't read the book yet, so I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah,
So and the movie was great, so I can imagine. Yeah, be another case where the book is that
fabulous.
much
Yeah.
better. Yeah, yep. So looking forward to that. All right, and you want to tell people where they can find you and your book?
Oh yeah, sure. Suzanne Mataboni. I'm out there on social media on, Facebook and Twitter, and not too hard to find. But I am the author of Once in a Lifetime, which is women's fiction about young girls in the 80s, kind of coming of age and finding themselves and such. So you can find that on Amazon and Kindle Unlimited and such. Or take a look at SuzanneMataboni.com or onceinaLifetimenovel.com. So
Do you have any more touring dates?
touring dates, I'm going to be on like the weekend of May 15th to 18th. I'm going to be in Pittsburgh for the Penn Writers Conference.
Oh,
And the last weekend in July, I'm going to be in Philadelphia for the American Library Association show.
oh, that's awesome. I love that you
Yeah.
do that. Yeah, I love
Yeah, just
it.
got done with there was a Philadelphia Writers Workshop that we just got done with at the end of April. And then the Lehigh Valley Conference was before that. So this is like writing conference season.
Oh,
So
that's so awesome. Love it. And then you can find me at GenX Journeys, all the socials. And this week I've been posting the uh see the films, 35 films and 35 albums of 1990, and we're gonna be wrapping that up I think by the end of this week. And then we're gonna really go a little deeper in the 90s. Next will be 30 films and 30 albums of 1995 for you younger Gen Xers. I'm used to the 80s, so I had Return to the 80s for years, decade over a decade and a half. So I'm really like going a little far off from the 80s, but yeah, it's still Gen X stuff. And, yeah, it's still a lot of fun stuff.
allow it.
So
Right.
I I was in the Navy and ended up going to college after I got out. So I graduated from college in 1996. So 1995 I was still in college. So it's still my college years. So so
It
yeah,
counts.
so I post so I post on there every day. So yeah, come check me out there. And the website is genxjourneys.net. And yeah, I should really start adding more stuff on there. I'll get to it. And then you can, if you have any book suggestions, want to contact us, you can email me at paul@genxjourneys.net. And I want to thank everybody for watching and listening, and let us know what you thought about this book and what effect it had on you. And if you read the book afterwards, let us know what you thought. So yeah, thank you
Absolutely.
so much. All right, and thank you, Suzanne, for joining me. And I believe our friend Dell will be back next month, so we'll see. And definitely check out his show, the 80s at 8 at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. And I think the school year are becoming close. I'm not sure when he's going on vacay after that, but I believe he's still going strong with that. So, yep, check out his show for sure as well. So, all right, we'll see you next month with a black eye as we cover Fight Club. Bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everybody. Bye.